continue with the solutions, and we have so much presenters, as you have seen them on the screen, and because we are expecting the president while we are having the program, so we need to move very fast. So without wasting so much time, I would like to call on the first speaker in the person of Yann Haguet to come and give us a talk on the physical and digital identity, that is innovation as an accelerator for a sustainable identity. Yann Haguet is the Executive Vice President, Identity Division in the Engr Group. Where is he?
Thank you, DG. Good morning, everybody. Bonjour. I'm very pleased to be here with you this morning. The recommendation is to be very sharp, so I will try to be on schedule and not to waste time. So I don't know if, okay. I can do it without slides, but it will be quite difficult. So maybe waiting the start of the slide, just maybe to introduce the presentation, few words. Yesterday evening, during its conclusion, Joseph Attic said that for years, all of us who have been participating to the ID4AFRICA event, spending a lot of time discussing about citizen registration, talking about the way to ease the issuance of the digital, the physical document, the identification of populations, having a presentation of very impressive and innovative solutions to secure, protect, and to accelerate the identification process. But we have to admit that for some years, and in this particular year of ID4AFRICA event, we are more and more focused on the digital identity. So my objective today is to show you and share with you how both the physical and the digital innovations mixed together can help to address all the development and accelerate a sustainable identification process. So let's start maybe with, thank you. Let's start with the African countries. Okay. With the African countries and make a very short statement on where the African countries are in terms of identification. The first thing maybe is to consider that on one side there is still a lot of job to do. I mean, in some report it is said that there is still about 500 million people without having an identification. But at the same time, we have to consider all the main investment made by African countries to develop, install, start in operation some telecom networks, PKI infrastructure to secure all the telecommunication and the digitalization of your country, and the African countries also increase a lot the coverage of internet in their country. It is said that, for instance, every year there is an increase of 20% of usage of internet in the African countries. So it's a very positive factor for digitalization. And on top of that, you have the chance to have a very young population in your countries. That means digital native. That means people used to have the digital world at their fingerprint and fingertips. And so they can access to the digital world, and they are expected a lot of innovations, and they are, to to have them attracted by your proposition, they need to have very innovative solutions. So this is what we will consider. On one side, there is still identification job to do, but on the other side, you have the chance to have this very young population. So if we go a little bit more deeply and we focus on what are the main challenges the government have to face to move to the digitalization. On one side, you have to leverage on your existing official identity, on the one you are managing as government, as states issuing identity. On the other side, as mentioned before, you have to cope with some expectations. That means your population, your young populations, will ask for frictionless and very innovative services. So you have to consider two things. On one side, your legacy, your asset. On the other side, you have to propose to your population, when you want to become digital, you need to propose to your population very innovative services. So, based on our experience, our approach is to propose solution we call phygital. That means a mix between physical identity and digital identity, and the combination of the two will help to address this important move from physical aspect of identity and the digital approach. What does it mean for us as a group supporting government in their activity to manage and secure the identity? First, we have to continue to support government to ensure the sovereignty of their identity, both in the physical world. That means we continue to propose, of course, secure element to secure the physical identity document, but at the same time, we have also to ensure that government moving to the digital identity will have and will continue to have and secure their sovereignty. That means, for instance, no way to have database, external database. That means you have, as government, to maintain management and master this database. Second thing, we need to help government to ensure inclusion. What does it mean? It means that, of course, you have young people having the digital world at their fingertips, but at the same time, you have people who are not digital native, and so you have to maintain the capacity for them to be included in your process. So you need alternative solutions. Third, you need to bring confidence and trust. The ecosystem, the digital ecosystem, will only run if you can provide confidence, trust in the full processes, in the full authentication you will provide. And fourth, and it is important things to consider, because you will face and you will provide services while doing digitalization of your process, you will have to ensure that the solution you deliver, you propose, the services are full-time available, 24 hours, 7 days a week, just because population are used to have services available every time, everywhere, and you have to provide the same way. There is no sense to consider the possibility to have your digital system and your digital identity system shut down during 1 hour, 2 hours. It's not possible. So this is our approach, support government to face these four main challenges. So what will be the main objectives, the four objectives for government when they will decide to move to the digitalization? As said before, they have to maintain their sovereignty on the digital aspect of the identity management, no external database. Second, you have to deal with privacy, because you will provide confidence, trust to the different actors, the citizen, but also the private operator. Maybe you will use or you will support to authenticate people and deliver some services. You need to protect the personal data. Third is to be convenient. I mean, As mentioned before, you need to be attractive in terms of way to interface your population, to provide services, to have them, to have these services frictionless. Otherwise, it will not be a success. And finally, as I said, you need to be inclusive. That means you have to provide alternative solutions if you want to be successful in this operation. So, for this reason, we are considering an approach with three main pillars. The first one is to say it's a nonsense. There is no sense to start from zero. You have assets, you have identification system, identity issuance, so you need to build on your foundations, you need to reuse your existing solutions, and we will build on top of that, with some modules, the way to issue your digital identity. This is the way, and there is no means, no sense to restart from zero. Second thing is, from the beginning, you have to involve both the public services actors, but also the private services actors. Just as a matter of example, when we start the digital ID in Monaco 2 years ago, we decided with our customer, with the government, to start at the same time public services, but also private services, for instance, the capacity to connect to a telecom operator or to your bank, just to make sure that the solutions, the use of the identification and the digital identity will be attractive for people and populations. So this is a way you have to consider in your model to embark both the public services and the private services. And the third thing, the third pillar, is to also to consider and propose to our customers and partners to adapt, to adjust the business model according to the need of the country. It can be licensing model, it can be on-premise, it can be delivered in cloud as a service. This is a way to adjust and to have a global discussion regarding the business model to achieve the digitalization. So, doing that, in fact, you need to move to the digital identity, and considering all what I explained before, you can consider that you have never been so close from having everything to start. And my suggestion this morning is to say that there is no reason to expect more and not to start immediately your digital move. Just because you can be quick and efficient relying on your legal identity, on your official identity. Third, two second things, you have, in fact, all what you need to leverage on your existing infrastructure, your existing database, your PKI. And third point, using the biometric, it will be easy for you to make a link between the official identity you have for your citizen, already registered, and the physical person, and deliver their digital identity. So this is why we are proposing solutions, which is a digital identity orchestration platform, which allow you to move to the digital identity and to issue digital identity on a simple way, just according and following 5 different steps. The first step is very easy. It's just to connect, to plug in your existing PKI. And if you have no existing PKI, we can also help you to install one. But if you have one, and generally you have one, it will be easy to integrate. Second thing, you need to interface your existing database to the digital ID orchestration platform. It's easy because in general, it's existing some standard, and if it is not existing, we can also create interface. Fourth thing is to connect your existing private and public services. What does it mean? In fact, this digital ID orchestration platform is giving the possibility to connect through an open ID standard, just use tokens, so it's easy to integrate in an existing portal, both for public and private services. So you have not to rebuild, to redevelop all your existing services you can use, and I know that a lot of you have already some services. And the fifth thing is just to say, because you need to be inclusive, you have to consider alternative solutions. So the proposal of this orchestration platform is not only to provide identity and digital identity in a smartphone, but also proposing QR code or e-card, etc. So many different ways to authenticate people. But as I have been recommended to be very sharp in time, I will just conclude that maybe the best way to understand more what I was explaining this morning is to come and visit our booth. We are situated in the Hall 2, booth 1, and this is where we can present you some example in collaboration with the Kenya Authority and the National Registration Bureau, the capacity to activate a digital identity based on on the Kenyan ID, existing card, and then access to 3 types of different services. One is to apply for a tax return, so a public service. The second one is to access to a bank to ask for a microcredit. And the third one is to declare the birth of your child while using your digital identity. And I guess that with this visit, you will maybe understand a little bit more what we can provide with this digital ID orchestration platform. This platform is existing for, okay, this platform is existing and is already started in operation and can be delivered on premise or as a service. Thank you, I have finished. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Yann. Thank you very much. As we are expecting the president any time from now, so we have to be strict with the timing. So do we have maybe one question, one important question to ask? Any hands up? Why is Yann? You have question. If there is any question for you to answer, but you can come up. I've not seen any hand, but I can ask you a question because you still have.
So
well,
if you have no question, please visit us on our booth and we will elaborate a little bit more.
Come up. Yeah, because, you know, a lot of times we have the civil society. They understand the laws. They understand how processes. They understand other countries, how they do it. How do we ensure that the civil society will accept what we have done from what you said?
Okay. So just to a brief answer to this question, just to make sure that people will accept and the deployment will be effective and successful. The recommendation is, of course, communication, but it's easy to say and it's need to be well organized. But I should again insist on one point. If you want to be successful, please consider the possibility to start as soon as possible with both public and private services. As you know, for the digital world, you need to create enthusiasm, and you need to have people enthusiastic, and to do that, you need people using your system a lot of time, every day if possible. And to do that, you need application, you need services, making the population, the citizen, using their digital identity every day. And this is how it will start. Look at the success of M-Pesa here in Kenya. It's a good example of application where people start and it's growing very fast. So this is my recommendation for a successful deployment of digital identity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yann. Thank you. Okay, we'll go straight to our next speaker. We'll speak on the missing link for inclusion in Africa. We have Rahul Parthe, the co-founder, chairman, and also the CTO of Tech5 to make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me make sure. Good morning, everybody. I would like to first thank you, Kenya, for hosting ID4AFRICA. Then I would like to thank you, ID4AFRICA, to give me the opportunity to speak on something we truly believe, that is building an inclusive digital identity system. Right? This is particularly important, and if you can see from the topic, which we all believe, and I think we personally believe, is that there's a missing link to make an inclusive system for Africa. Let's start with why are we all here? We all know and understand that for a society to develop, and socioeconomic success relies on the success of every individual participating in its progress. The word everybody is very important. That actually means inclusion is the pillar of a socioeconomic development. You can call it inclusion, you can call it removing the barriers. And how do you enable that? You enable everybody through inclusion to participate. And to achieve that, the core is digital economics. For the digital economics is digital identity, or identity, basically. To make a successful system, we need to work towards building a future-proof, inclusive, decentralized digital identity system. To set the correct frame for discussion, we all know, if you just look at the society, there are three main parties who talk to or interact in order to conduct our daily lives. Starts with the user in the middle, which is us. Yeah? I consider myself as a common man. When I want to access any rights or services, I go to somebody who is providing those services. In this case, it will be the relying party or the verifier. Very simple example, I go say, my name is Rahul. The verifier says, great. Says who? Then I have to say, well, I have a credential that has been issued by a issuing authority, which can be either mandated to do so, or could be a self-assumed responsibility. This interaction has these three parties in the play, and in many contexts, this is called as the trust triangle. As you can imagine, in order for us to conduct our lives in society, these three parties have to efficiently connect, trust each other, and function. Now, each party in that triangle has certain expectations. So let's start with the issuers. The most important successful factor of any identity system is mass adoption. And it applies to everything, right from making the good soft drink to a nice car. If it is not adopted, it's useless. So for a system to be effective, it has to be mass adopted, which means everybody should feel confident in its reliability, in its security, and they should feel it's user-friendly, it's user-centric, which will encourage them to further go and keep using it. Each of these systems rely on some kind of governance, right? And the governance has to be easy. The governance behind the system has to be flexible, allows you to expand the systems easily, foster participation from multiple stakeholders. It cannot be use case specific. What all that is collected during an identity program is a sovereign asset. It's like a national asset, right? It has to be treated as with as much security from the external threats as well as the internal threats. So a system should be well designed to ensure that your sovereign asset is always protected. The next factor that actually enables a efficient and effective system is it should be cost effective, it should be sustainable, and then it should be easy to scale, deploy, and expand. And finally, it should be future proof. people very loosely use this term, oh, it should be future-proof. And people start thinking, saying, we should build something that will survive for 30 years, 50 years. And I too personally believe that we should do that, but there has to be some practical considerations. What we have seen is that the world keeps evolving. Every 5 to 10 years, there is a new invention, new technology, new threats that are evolving. So we have to consider what's been developed in the other parts of the world, take it in here, and then build our systems such that, at least for the next 10 years, it is good enough. And then whatever the new trends come in, we are ready to adapt and change our systems. The user, which is at the center of the system, they have their own expectations from the system. First of all, it should be inclusive, irrespective of the person's status in the society, irrespective of their digital skills, their literacy, their physical abilities, they should be able to participate. A solution that is inclusive will again foster the adoption. It has to be trustworthy. When I transact with someone, if there is not enough trust and confidence, I am not going to use it. So a system that is built on the principles of reliability and security help build that trust, which means the users are going to keep using it. It has to be multi-purpose. We have all learned that use case specific IDs have a limited lifetime and a scope. Something that is designed for a particular specific purpose does not flourish. An identity system that you build can be used in multiple use cases, has a longer life, and will be adopted heavily. Sensitive topic. There could be natural disaster, unavailability of the central resources because of political situations. The system has to keep working. There are many scenarios where after for some reasons, if the system was not available, the identity system just crashed, and the civil people or the population was left behind with a system that doesn't work and was exploited or is exploited by the bad actors. So we should ensure that at least for a foreseeable time of such situations, the system keeps working. We are all talking about digital ID. The whole discussion around here is digital. But through our experience, we have seen is that there is certainly a certain percentage of the population who still do not, due to lack of understanding or education, do not believe in something that is digital. They want something tangible. They want to touch it. They want to feel it. They want to think it's there, it's real. It's a joke. Somebody says, your identity is in the cloud, and people have asked, what happens when the cloud goes away? So you have to basically be sure you can touch it. And last but not least, this is a very evolving expectation from the users that they have to be in control of their identity. What this means is that I should be able to decide who looks at my identity, what they can read from it, and I am able to at least understand, up to some extent, what are they going to do with my information. This is very important, yeah? And this is very important as the world is thinking about it. Finally, the relying parties who are actually providing the services also have their expectations. They want the systems to be flexible. This is driven either by their economic requirements, because this could be private enterprises, or they want to have a system, an identity system that they could easily use in order to conduct their business and be out of trouble and make sure that the citizens are happy. It has to lower their reliability. This has happened time on time in many cases now, that the relying parties were the culprits for data breaches. In many countries, neither the citizen was at fault, neither the government was at fault. The people who were servicing and capturing the information did not have the governance or the systems in place, which led to them losing the data and actually costing not only the citizens, but the government also. So the system has to be in such design that the relying parties only keep information that they need and is secured, and their liability goes down. Finally, the relying parties always want to be in compliance with the government and the local regulations. They're always afraid. If they make a mistake, they're going to be fined. They're also afraid that if they lose data, they're going to be on the target. And so what they do is they try to, say, check all the boxes, which could end up if a very difficult system for the citizen. So by fostering a system that is simple in compliance and meeting the regulatory requirements, you actually make the citizen's life easy. So considering all these requirements, from the regulatory and administrative perspective, what it means is that at the end of the day, you need to design systems and they have some technical requirements, looking at the infrastructure limitations, the usage of the identity. And what are these technical requirements? I mean, there are many, but I would like to focus on 3. Decentralized. This is the new notion. In the 80s, we all started with centralized identity, which means there is a central authority and they're responsible for making sure that identity is issued, but also how it is used. Then came the federated identities like Facebook, Google, where you can go to Facebook and that will allow you to log into something, which is very dangerous because now Facebook knows what you're doing. Now the new trends in identity are decentralized identity. What this means is that the identity is issued at the central location. The identity is then given to the user. Now the user interacts with the relying party in a fully decentralized way. There are many benefits of a decentralized system. Number 1, since it is an interaction between the issuer and the relying party, the central system does not have to be online, which means your attack vector from internal or external threats is gone down. So your cybersecurity requirements are gone down. Since it works between a peer-to-peer, a person and a relying party, it can easily scale. You can have millions of transactions happening in parallel without having any dependence on the central system. And then the third one, it allows the people and the relying parties to transact with each other without having the central authorities to know what they're doing. The second aspect of this technical requirement is that we don't have to design these systems in a vacuum. This can be aligned with the evolving standards. There is a big movement in the, in the US and the UK where people are working on these new evolving standards like W3C verifiable credentials, Trust over IPI Foundation, and the whole idea of this is how do we make sure a decentralized identity is interoperable, standard, and can be used in a decentralized fashion. Biometrically enabled, this is the key because by connecting the person to the user, biometric allows security and frictionless usage. The digital ID systems are becoming increasingly popular, but then in the context of Africa, there's a little bit of a concern. Africa, like many parts of the other world, has a digital divide where people do not have either digital phones or infrastructure, and this leads to less adoption. So the missing link for Africa is actually implementing a system that meets all these requirements with combination of open standards and it's decentralized. To quickly summarize or broad strokes what a typical system would look like. First of all, we all know you should biometrically enroll everybody in the population, including the infants and every citizen. You do not have to lock yourself to traditional biometrics. Face recognition or facial biometrics, fingerprint and iris are the core, but you can start leveraging new evolving technologies like voice and palm, low resolution, and the whole fingerprints with contactless fingerprint capture. This allows smartphones to act very effectively then depending on traditional sensors. Finally, you deduplicate, issue a credential that gets pushed to the people. This is a self-sovereign identity principles. This is where the world is going. That doesn't mean we have to do it today. Basically, we could adopt some of these principles where the identity is created and pushed to the people in their digital wallet or on a physical credential. A decentralized digital identity, if you see on the screen, is basically what we are proposing is something that can be implemented in an open wallet, which is the modern infrastructure of a digital ID, but that's not it. You can actually print it on a physical card, and this is your digital identity wallet that can be printed on a card, and you can walk around and use it in an offline manner to prove who you are with biometric verification. So biometrics play, again, a key role because they allow you to build that trust with security, frictionless usage. You can quickly see this video where the person is presenting a a cryptograph, which is a digital identity either on a phone or a printed paper, and then using a smartphone, they're able to match the face stored in it and the fingerprint stored in it. So just to recap, what it allows is the issuer to issue credentials centrally, but foster the decentralized verification. This is the most important aspect of this approach. The users can securely prove who they are using their biometrics, biometric binding, without sacrificing privacy and security, which is, again, very important from a data protection perspective. And finally, the relying parties are also able to biometrically connect the dots and prove the identities from the person and serve them. To sum up, there are all these aspects that you can see on the screen that are required by the system, but the blue ones are the ones that are essential, and inclusion, decentralized, and biometrically enabled are something that you should take with you. And thank you for letting me present.
Oh, thank you very much, Rahul. Just wait. Should we have maybe one question? We still have some 3 minutes within the time. Is there any question? I can't see any hand. Okay, so there's someone in front. Give him the...
Let me get to the last slide.
Yes, if I may ask,
Listen.
you said that this identity, which is actually trying to include everything and make the work easier, how will it be possible now to be made in Africa, since most of our nations are not in advanced technological perspective?
I did not see the question in person, but I would refer, can you hear me? It's all right, okay. Yeah, so if I understand the question correctly, how can we do it in Africa today, right? And this is where I think my main message is that we do not have to wait for 5 to 10 years. As the presentation in the previous talk talked about that you already have some assets in terms of identity systems. There are very easy ways to quickly move on with the solutions or actually enhance them. And the beauty of new biometric systems and Credential is that they can be done using smartphones. So you do not have to rely on heavy infrastructure. So if you are flexible and if you follow the new evolving standards, you can start enrolling populations using smartphones, with contactless fingerprint captures, face, even voice, and palm for the matter of fact, and then start to augment your databases to make it inclusive in terms of biometrics. And from the technology perspective to deploy this is, again, by design, it is made simple enough that it can plug in into your existing, let's say, ecosystems. For example, this system is integrated in MOSIP, if you have already heard it. Then it can be a component that can be part of OSIA, where you have a credential, and you can overnight, I can be bold enough to say, issue hundreds of millions of credentials overnight. Of course, this can be then sent over to the phone, or can be printed on a paper and laminated in a plastic, laminated, right? So it can be printed. So in reality, in practicality, you could have the whole nation with a digital identity in a matter of weeks, which means now everybody has a credential. For the verification part of it, just have a government app, let them download it. Everybody who's in the relying party can then start verifying their credentials. So again, there are very easy ways to bridge that gap till we build a very mature system. And again, if you're curious to understand what that could be and how our experience could help, happy to answer those in our booth and discuss in detail. I would really welcome very exciting and good conversations.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's move quickly to the third speaker. He's going to talk to us about exceptional biometrics. As we know, in Africa, we have farmers, we have children, we have people that can stuff the ballot box. So how do we solve local peculiarities of biometrics identity projects? So we have Yann Lunter, the founder and CEO for Biometrics, to help us solve this problem. So you have the screen, your timing will be shown there. Just point it there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really glad I am with you today because I am with people who like biometrics, who believe in positive aspects of biometrics and who believe in positive impact the biometrics can have on our world. The topic of my presentation today, and you can see it, is exceptional biometrics. But do not worry, I will not talk about how exceptional we are, how exceptional our solutions are, even though I think we do some nice stuff. I will talk a little bit more, or the topic is a little bit more frustrating and even a little bit sad. I will talk about biometric exceptions. So what are biometric exceptions? So those are situations when biometrics does not work as expected. So we talk about biometric challenges and issues and situations when things go wrong, basically. I have 2 questions to ask you. So I would like you to raise your hand, all those who think that biometrics is universal. So please, if you think biometrics is universal, raise your hand, please. See some hands. Thank you. Thank you for being with me. So yes, biometric is universal. We all have faces, we all have fingerprints, we have irises, but it works also for animals in some situations. We know that chimpanzees have fingerprints and koalas have fingerprints as well. But so far we did not any project with koalas, but it's still on my bucket list. So if you have a project with koalas in mind, please come and visit us at our booth and you will make a great day for me. So, okay, so, but I promised you also a second question, and the second question is very easy. Who thinks that life is full of surprises? Personal life or professional life, who thinks there are many surprises in the life? Okay, thank you for being with me. And yes, you are right, life is full of surprises, and biometric is about life, about living creatures, and so there will be many surprises along the way. What does it mean? What does it mean? What is a surprise in biometrics? And you have heard about it, and so this is something I call a biometric exception. And how do they manifest? So they manifest in the terms, and you have all heard them, like precision issues and accuracy issues and misclassification, error rates, false hits, even a lot of what's a popular term these days is bias, biometric bias, or false duplicates, and so on. So we need to solve, and nobody wants a system that has those biometric exceptions that are flowing the system. So we have to handle them, we have to catch them and solve them as soon as possible. Okay, so how we do it, and what were the major biometric exceptions we have encountered so far. So as Innovatrix, we have now 20 years of experience doing biometric projects, and we like to travel, we like to be on site. We don't do projects alone, we always do it with local partner, but we are participating, and we want to see the biometric part of it, we want to be responsible, we want to be on site, we want to have the hands-on experience. Our teams are used to traveling. And we have seen all kinds of situations. So let's start with elections. And you know that elections and biometrics can be, typically linked together. So one possibility is to use biometrics prior to the elections to create the electoral list that is cleaned up, that has no duplicates in it, and so on. And this is the typical case. In some other situations, you can use biometrics after the elections happen. And that's what we did in Nigeria, and the project was about cleaning up and finding the duplicates or people who were trying to we call them mass voters or serial voters, people who were trying to vote multiple times. And we were expecting, because before in projects with elections, we were expecting, okay, maybe one guy by mistake is registered twice and has casted 2 ballot papers, has 2 votes instead of 1 or 3 votes. And we were used to this. Our workflows were adjusted to this kind of situation. But then in Nigeria, we found out, okay, now we have a problem. We have those serial voters, and we just had thousands, in some situations, of votes from the same thumbprint. So just one guy voting many times. So this has to be cleaned up biometrically, and this was a surprise for us. So that's something we call a biometric exception that happened. We needed to adapt our workflows, but we have been with the customer following closely the problem, so we were able to adapt the workflow so that, and we have now the so-called mass resolution, and if it's such a big group or one person voting like many times, we can solve it very efficiently. Okay, what can go wrong in biometrics? Do you think that's the only problem? No, there might be more. This is a project in Guinea, and we were surprised that we found out that many children try to get registered and try to get a voter's card. And we are not ready for this because it was supervised. Enrollment operators were with them, but it's okay, maybe they didn't pay attention, maybe they did it intentionally, who knows? But at the end, we were facing the situation where we had children, by doing some manual review, we found many children faces clearly under 18 that were not eligible, that should not be able to vote. So what we did was very simple. We have tried our age detection algorithm, but unfortunately for this population was not accurate enough, so we needed to do to do the training of the new algorithm. And as you know, those projects, you can't just delay the election because you will say the biometric is not working as expected. So we needed to do it on time. So I remember this was during Christmas, so it was a little bit hard, but we managed to develop this algorithm that eliminated children based on their facial photos and on apparent age. So this is another kind of biometric exception that can happen, and unexpected things happen. Okay, another situation we were facing with, we had to cope with, was in Thailand, and here the situation was, this is a project about ID cards, and they have a national registry of fingerprints, I think faces as well, and we found out on site that it's not only adults, but these were also with children's, and I think they are right, because for the inclusion, from the inclusion point of view, it really makes sense to have children in your national registry. Also in Europe, we see more and more cases when, for example, banks would like to open bank accounts for children, and I think it's completely reasonable. If you are aged 14, 15, 16, it's good to have personal identity and to be so it's important to have an inclusive system. But unfortunately, we found out that the error rates for children in the original system were not very good. So we had to, unfortunately, the age was registered, so we were able to find out a solution, because children's fingerprints are different. They are not, the reach density is different and so on. So we needed really to act quickly and come up with a solution, and we were able to decrease the error rate with children approximately 5, 6, 7 times. So the customer at the end was happy, but it was a challenge, I have to admit. Okay, what can go wrong in biometrics? Fingerprints from smartphones. And you know, you maybe, and it's a valid case, everybody wants this process to be as simple as possible. And for example, and here is the situation, it's a project from Saudi Arabia, and when people are applying for e-visa, the better way is to allow them to apply remotely and to do the verification of the identity remotely. And smartphones are good at this, and they have high-quality cameras, and you can get even fingerprints. Of course, your facial image is accessible through smartphone, but fingerprints as well. So that's what was done in this project. But then we found out, okay, we have a mixed data set with photographed fingerprints together with traditional FBI scanner Appendix F certified fingerprints, like traditional SLAP fingerprints, and the system was not interoperable enough, or the error rates just spiked up. So yeah, we need it. And you see here the images, and you can see the left one is the original one from the camera, then the middle one is filtered. and the right one is the one from the traditional fingerprint scanners. So we needed to adapt the process and to react in order to make sure the accuracy is good, because the point is you need as low accuracy as possible, otherwise, yes, the system is not secure. Okay, what else can go wrong? And sometimes, and this is a project I think in Colombia, and the ID card has to be scanned, and then we do live match with live photo from smartphone against the photo on the identity document. We do OCR recognition as well along the way, and actually we provide a digital identity for the citizens. So here, what was the problem? There were just too many, I will show you the video, there were just too many security elements. So the security elements were visible, but the face itself was not visible so well. So maybe too many security elements. So what can you do in such a situation? And it was disturbing the matching algorithm. The facial matching was kind of, the scores were low, so yeah, it's a problem. So we needed to come up with an innovative solution, and we have created a filter that is eliminating those watermarks in a general way, and now we are using it in all kind of projects that require digitalization of ID cards. But it was a surprise for us, because in other countries this is not an issue. Okay, sometimes the situation is different. It's not biometrics causing exceptions and surprises, but it can be the other technology around that it's causing problems. And here, and this is this photo is from G20 summit that was held in Bali, in Indonesia, a few months ago. And the technology, our technology was used for video processing and searching of suspect persons by using facial identity. So we were basically securing the area by our video processing technology and facial search. What we did not really expect, or what was difficult there, was the network infrastructure, because processing simultaneously, and it had to be live, of course. If you just do post-processing, it's too late. So we had to process in real time the stream from 1,700 cameras and look for suspicious persons. And the network bandwidth was a problem, so large-scale data transfer was the real challenge, not the biometric part of it. Okay, so what we did, but biometric can help in such situations, and what we did, we have offloaded the process and we did the recognition on the camera, so the faces were detected directly on the camera, and we did not have to send the whole stream, but only faces to the central server that did the identification. And it worked quite well, because one person from Interpol list was arrested thanks to this and tried to enter the premises. So this was a success of the technology. Okay, so we have seen all kind of biometric failures, or initially failures, or challenging situations that needed a solution, that needed a fast reaction. And actually, in this kind of projects, it's very important that you act fast. That you have to be fast, because the project has some deadline, so you don't have extra time. Fortunately, these days we are helped a lot by neural networks. We are helped a lot by even generative AI, and that's the topic, or that's the point I would like to show you. It's a little bit what we do behind the scenes. So generative AI is the way how we can shorten those development cycles. So I think you still remember COVID, and before nobody wanted a mask detector. After COVID start, everybody needed a very reliable mask detector. So these faces, at that time we did it the old way, but here all those faces were generated artificially, or those are synthetic data, so no GDPR issues, and you can see that they are of high quality. You wouldn't tell it's not the real person, or it's not the real mask. Even the mask variety is quite good, and we can use those for training of our algorithms, of our neural network. So instead of spending maybe months and cleaning the data and doing it a little bit kind of manually, we can use generative AI, generative neural networks that will create these kind of images for us, and then we do the training on them, and the classifier can be basically finished within a week instead of a few months or few weeks. So this is really shortening the cycle. Okay, a little bit of more examples of this category. Okay, maybe do you need a detector of children under 15? So this is what generative AI is thinking how children under 15 look like. So these were all generated artificially, and I think it's very usable for training the algorithm. And maybe you have to add to the data set also real data, but okay, this works quite well. A few more examples. Maybe you need to detect head covers, no problem. Or do you need a detector of earphones? We can do this with synthetic AI. Do you need an ice cream detector for some reason? It's possible. Okay, so this was it. So you can see the biometric, the life is surprising, and you agreed with me, biometrics brings up surprises as well, and biometrics is full of exceptions. I think you need a solid biometric partner that will help you to solve those and handle those exceptions in the best possible way as soon as possible, as soon as they happen. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I think you will have a lot of questions because of the topic. And you know, biometric elections voting is very expensive and also time consuming. And also recently we saw that there is also voter apathy, like only 25% of the voters came out in Nigeria. Do we see that in the future we should be able to do those voting in the convenience of our home using our mobile phones? What do you think?
Well, yes, I would love to see a completely remote voting system. Of course, there are challenges. We are here speaking from the biometric perspective. From biometric point of view, it completely makes sense. With smartphone, you can capture high-quality facial images. You can do multimodal biometrics. You can add fingerprints. You can add palm prints. And if you combine those technologies, I think your vote can be really secure. Other technological elements come on top of it, and we have to do it together with partners, but I think the future will bring us remote elections, and there are countries that are already doing it.
Yeah. Any other question from the public? Yeah, someone up there. Your topic is interesting, so yes.
Years, and in terms of the accuracy around the touchless biometric and how the growth is there, and what your own algorithms around that, have you tried it, and you know how comfortable you feel in terms of one-to-one matching and one-to-n matching, and what your advice will be. And secondly, on iris as well, that you would have
just one.
Yeah.
Just one question because of
on
time.
On iris as well, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Go on.
Okay, so for the...
Go on.
Okay. So, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Okay, okay, good. So for those who didn't hear the question, it was about touchless fingerprint biometrics, if it's useful, how I see it. I think we have seen after COVID, we have seen a lot of demand for touchless biometrics, but now we see the situation is going a little bit back towards the old style touch systems. People are not so afraid to touch scanners anymore. At the same time, I think touchless biometrics is very credible. And the use case for it is the remote identity verification, and we can see that smartphone cameras are becoming better and better, and if it's macro zoom, they can really scan the small details of the fingerprint, and it can be used reliably. The problem is interoperability, because those scanned images are, and photographed images, you have the 3D deformation. you have perspective deformation, so they are not interoperable, so that's some challenge for the algorithms, but okay, I think this can be solved and the error rate can be lowered down reasonably well, and I think it can be a practical solution using remote identity verification with fingerprints. The question was also about irises. I don't know, we don't have experience with irises taken from smartphones. I think it's, and we use it for liveness check, but we don't really use it for verification of people through irises remotely. Okay. I believe more in palm print, basically.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I believe, thank you. Okay, we're moving quickly to the fourth speaker on speaking on future-proofing government ID document life cycle, starting from the production. I have my friend here, Marc-Julian Siewert, who is the CEO and also the chairman, the management board of Veridos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, very good morning, Nairobi. First of all, I'm sorry because I need to make you work first. Please take a moment to just think about what identity means for each and every one of you, in whatever form. And I think we take it for granted, and we don't think about very often what identity really means and how much we use it every single day, from morning to evening, not only to travel to this beautiful place and access the world, but to go through our life. And we do that in the physical space as well as in the digital space. So, identity, it is who you are. It is similar to the flag of a country. It is representing the culture of a country. It is really who you are. Imagine for a moment without an identity, what are you? What am I? How do you define yourself? And there is still, as mentioned before, almost 1 billion people in this world without the access to a legal identity. So this is an amazing industry because we have a responsibility, all of us in this room, to grant access to a legal identity to all the people. And then come the use cases that we have seen before. So my name is Marc-Julian Siewert. I'm the CEO of Veridos, as mentioned. And today I would like to talk about future-proofing the entire identity space in the physical as well as in the digital space. And at Veridos, we are customer-centric at everything we do. The customer is in our heart. So when we listen to the customers, and especially to many of you in this room, we understand that there's a big need to also produce your own identities in the physical space, to have the control over the data, which was mentioned before, to maintain sovereignty, and to also have a local value chain. So I tried to talk today briefly about the physical document production, the supply chain of it, and I will try to match it with the digital identities. So there are drivers for decision-making to in-source production of identity documents in your country. And we've been sorry, yeah, it moves. So we have been doing this a lot, and I will come in the latter part of the presentation to some examples. But in the end, or in the beginning, it's important to take care of three major things, or ask three major questions to yourself. First of all, you need to have the right technology. We heard a lot about great technologies this morning, and you need all of them in a holistic ecosystem to manage identities well. Again, in the physical as well as in the digital space. When you are designing your supply chain, you need balanced state-of-the-art technologies which fits to the specific needs of your country and your citizens and your situation. As we heard before, examples from Kenya, from Nigeria, and of course there are many others. You need a tailor-made design that fits to you, that fits to your requirements in terms of the business case. Does it, for example, make sense to have your own production facility, or do you do part of the entire supply chain together with trusted partners? And you have to consider the point of sovereignty, so geopolitics. And geopolitics are driving the way we operate in our economies. So it's key that you control and maintain the data of your citizens by yourself, again, as mentioned before, in the physical as well as the digital space. So we get a lot of requests to talk about technology transfer, upskilling, localizing value chain, so creating part of the value or all of the value inside your country with your own facility. And we partner with our customers, we partner with governments in order to find out and develop together with you the best possible way for which part of the value chain you want to do in your country. From security printing, in some countries it makes sense to even make the paper of the passports. In other, it makes sense, for example, in smaller countries, to focus on the personalization, talking about physical documents. But you need to be sure, of course, that you have a complete security concept in the physical space as well as cybersecurity. You have to make sure to meet standards, and you are creating with the identity the one true trust anchor. Without the one true trust anchor, also as the colleagues described before, also the digital identity doesn't work. There has to be one truth, and you have to own this one truth. So looking in more depth when we talk about tailor-made facilities, and we have built some in the meantime also in the region, you of course have to look from the outside, it's the physical security of a compound, to the inside, cybersecurity, and then define really in the value chain and supply chain what you want to do locally. At the same time, at G&D and Veridos, we work in the entire value chain, from the initial creation of a piece of paper that goes in a passport all the way to the destruction or the end. So basically from the birth, through birthdays, all the way to the end of life. And we accompany this also in the supply chain, from paper creation to the destruction of the document. This can be easily transferred to the digital space. So I brought one example just to give a feeling and show you what we do. Normally we make an analysis, we make a study together with you. What does it make sense to buy from outside? What does it make sense to produce locally? And how can we together upskill the people and transfer the knowledge? The advantages are, and points we also look at in the holistic analysis, are the creation of local employment, it's the inclusion of local vendors, and of course local resources that can be used. And a country obviously takes pride in producing its own document, like it takes pride in having its own flag, in adhering to its culture, and in having its own identity. And obviously we do this together with the countries in the physical space, from end to end, all the way to the digital space, from wallets, use cases in the private and in the public sectors. And to give you some examples, I'd like to just quickly share. So for instance, in Uganda, we have created a joint venture together with the government. We produce the passports locally. We do the entire operation of the driving license system locally. And we, of course, train and upskill the partners that we have in Uganda. We do an entire end-to-end project in Bangladesh. It's 200 million people. We have been starting in 2018, and in the meantime, we're producing 5 million passports locally. It's a 12-year contract, so we supply know-how and technology transfer from Germany, but we upskill. We have trained more than 1,000 people in the meantime in Bangladesh. And that way, the ask is to really think about your supply chain, think about your requirements and needs, and look along the entire value chain, which you see here. It starts somehow with the production of the document, goes through data capturing of your citizens, we heard before, enrollment, the personalization of documents, and then the verification. And again, you can take this cycle almost the same and transfer it into the digital world. There's a trust anchor in the basis, transfer in the digital world, it works pretty much the same way. So come to our booth and we would like to explain obviously more of how to go along the cycle and how to make your choices. We have some more. Since 2013, we work in Iraq in a complex environment, but today, since 2019, we issue thousands of passports every day in a local production site. So we really focus on the requirements of such a country, work together, and find together with you the right setup for what you need. In Egypt, and that's a project close to my heart, I worked on this project for about 5 years. We did a project in the banknote space. So of course, security printing is also connected from the production of secure paper all the way to banknotes, passports, ID documents, and you will find a lot of synergies. In this specific project in Egypt, we on the one hand built an entire cash production which can serve the continent. It's quite a large space. It was built in the desert from ground up, production of banknotes, but also we revolutionized the entire cash cycle. On again, similar to identity, from the physical part of money, cash, all the way to digital payments, central bank digital currency, and the way the cash center is automatically handled throughout a country that is also growing with more than 100 million as of today. The projects can range from very small to very large. Like this project is a 300 million euro project that took more than 5 years, and the success was really based on the very, very strong and good partnership. And that's something I would like to stress, because that's at our heart. We want to partner with our customers, and we are there to stay for the long term. Our shareholder is more than 170 years old on the one hand, Gieseck-Devrient, and 200 years on Bundesdruckerei side, so the German state printer, our second shareholder, and we are there for the long term. So we are not there for short-term gain. So that way we create partnerships with our customers, and I think we understand, all of us in this room, we understand the importance of an identity. It is the root of everything. How much is it worth when your child is born and you get a birth certificate, you get an identity, you know who you are and your life starts. This really drives me. The question is, how do we do that best? Because we owe it to our citizens, we owe it to your citizens, and we have a great responsibility here. And we believe that the answer is to have a purpose-built, made-to-purpose supply chain that goes from the analysis through the design to really dividing how you can have sovereign key production steps in your country, and same for digital, to have the key infrastructure, was mentioned before by my colleague, to have the key infrastructure, the control of the data in your country, and we believe this is the same for all the citizen data. We are here to support the transition from the full import of documents and identities to a partly local production and also the local issuance of digital credentials. So ultimately, you manage the most valuable good, the credentials and the data of your citizens, which in the end provide seamless access to the world, whether it's your mobile phone, bank account, or travel. So let's work together on giving access to sovereign identities to all. And in order to discuss this further, please connect on LinkedIn. Please visit us at the booth in Hall 2, booth 36. And let's join the conversation and drive this further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. You're right on time.
I'm out of time, yeah.
Yeah. So let's wait. Is there any question for Mark? Please. Any questions? Okay. Up there.
Thank you. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Siggy from Internews. I had a question about the partnership between Veridos and Innovatrix, centered around the use of DNA for civilian identification. On your slide for Bangladesh, you had put VeriDNA. Could you please tell us how VeriDNA is being used in Bangladesh? Thank you.
Yes.
So we have a great partnership with Innovatrix and with many other companies also represented in this room. I believe it's an industry of partnerships. We have to partner well to work together. We do that with Innovatrix on various solutions on the ABIS. And I struggle to hear, but I think you're asking also about the DNA topic, which is basically we are promoting a device that allows you to collect DNA streams within 90 minutes. And with Innovatrix, we integrate this into the ABIS and into the core system. If you wish, we do this all along the rules of human rights, and we offer this for specific use cases. So normally the DNA solution is used for disaster recovery, for identifying people, and for migration management. So finding out whether a family really, the whole family belongs together. And of course you can use it as a final and last resort of identity management to figure out, and even in the final stage if you wish, include it in the document or in the database to have the biometric, the DNA stream data of a person. I hope this answers the question, but it's something we work on and innovate to innovate the future and to be part of, as Yann explained a lot about biometrics, to be part of also probably the next final generation of identity management. More questions?
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, ID4AFRICA.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we have our last, but not the least, speaker. He's going to talk to us about the power of design. All of us, we have one of our documents, either our international passport or the ID card. And usually there's so much that happens before the designs that we appreciate. So Colin Howell will talk to us on the power of design in enhancing credential value. Colin? Thank you. So you have this screen there. You can use to push your slide, and there will be time. Thank you.
Morning. How is everyone? It's an honor to be here this morning, representing HID Global from the UK. And it's a huge honor to be here today speaking to you, Your Excellency. Thank you for your time. Design is one of the most powerful forces in our lives, and for the most powerful way of communicating ideas that humanity has. Successful design sends intentional messages to the audience, and it helps them to understand what they are looking at. I started off at Central St. Martin's studying fine art and portraiture, and here's two examples of my work. I remember my tutor saying, pay attention to the eyes. This is where you create the intensity. This is where you create the power, Colin. The subject's eyes are what makes the viewer feel something. I've been a designer now for over 30 years, the first 10 years as a currency designer. Here is my early work in watercolors and pencil crayons, conceptual design that we would then show to presidents and central banks. And when they made a change, we would have to start again. This is another design for the last 20 years, I have been doing ID cards and passports. But there was a similarity between ID cards and currency. And in the early 90s, I designed a series for the Zambia kwacha and the Kenya shilling. It was my first trip to Kenya in '91, and I worked with the central bank coming up with this design. What was paramount important to me then was being immersed here at ground level, meeting you, meeting the nationals, in the rural places, in the urban, towns, and the townships. Anyone remember those notes? I love traveling because every place I've been to, even when I return to it multiple times, I learn something new, and I encounter different perspectives, and it deepens my cultural understanding. Along with travel, I have designed over 30 passports worldwide. Previously, the 2 UK passports, the Estonia book, which HID Global won an award for, and the recently launched Bahrain project, which was just this March. But one of my favorite nations on earth is Africa, and I've spent many months exploring this continent, researching, doing my own photography. I've sat around boardroom tables with presidents, but equally I've sat with orphans. I volunteered for a charity in Mozambique, working there for 3 months, playing football with the young children underneath the hot African sun. Subsequently, I've had the honor to design several passports for Africa, and Kenya is one of those that I designed. Rwanda also, and the recently launched Sierra Leone. I'll show you some of those in a moment. It wasn't until I walked with the lions in Zimbabwe that I felt a tangible strength and a power being with these big cats. Similarly, it isn't until you walk the design journey with me that you discover the enormous potential and power and strength of design. So let's dig a little bit deeper into this phrase. The role of a designer has many interpretations. When we say the word design, I'm sure many things appear in people's minds. Some of you may ask, what has design ever done for me? Well, consider the chair that you're sitting on, or the car that you drive, or the kitchen that you're saving up for. The truth about design is it shapes our understanding and the world and our experience within it. What defines us as humans is our ability to design our world. Design can enhance the aesthetic appeal of products and environments. Design can create brand recognition. It can foster innovation and creativity. Design can create a sense of community and belonging by designing spaces and environments that promote social interaction and shared experiences. And design can promote safety and security, both in ID documentation, but other products and environments, and minimize risk and protect users from harm. I would bet that you would all recognize these symbols. And I would suggest that the power of design in these is in the mere simplicity of them. But these would have taken a long time deliberating over the idea. What about these? Testing your regional knowledge. Whether it's design layout, composition, typography, style, or color, each design is recognizable and distinct elements to draw to your attention. as a designer, there is so much variation. I have 16 million colors to choose from, all sorts of different materials and textures, multiple different styles, from photographic, illustrative, abstract, and of course, typography. But here's where I think the real power of design grows. Because the role of a designer, me as a designer, has evolved from a shape giver to a facilitator, from me to we. Our power at HID Global lies in the fact that we want to get round the table with you and listen to your voice. We want to collaborate with you, and we want to share our ideas together. And that process starts with you. And the process that we start with is a design workshop, understanding what it is like to live in your country. You always have a head start on me, and getting that local input as early as possible. But not only the things that you like in design, the things that you don't. So I will look at your currency and your passport, and I will ask open and honest questions. Do you like the color? Do you like the design? Designers have to have thick skin and soft hearts. Conversation seeds collaboration. I heard that yesterday. I love that phrase. And running these workshops brings a fascinating level of detail. And if done well, you're spoilt for choice. I always start off by asking the customer this one question. What does your country mean to you? What does Kenya, as a citizen, mean to you? And a few essential things that I kick off with is I'm visual. Show and don't tell. Encourage wild ideas. Stay focused on the subject. Defer any judgment. Put all the ideas in the greenhouse and nurture them. No idea is a bad idea as a designer, so let's at least consider it if it's coming from your voice. Build on the ideas of the customer and be willing to quickly adapt. And of course, design is subjective, and everyone can get very excited about it, so I try to encourage one conversation at a time. What do we learn from these? Well, of course, we find out the usual subjects of governance, history, national symbols, language and culture, geography, so much more. But as we dive deeper, the real power of design is revealed through more complex strands. Perhaps we need to define past issues or problems, try to solve these for you in your new design, or prioritize simplicity, making the design easy to understand, or focus on creating a design that has a positive impact on the audience and the world around them. I recently had the privilege to work with the Ministry of Interior in Kenya. They traveled to the UK on a couple of occasions. We sat around a table for 3 days discussing your country and finding out about it in detail. There were some high-level takeaways: natural wonders, cultural heritage, economic process, environmental conservation, education and innovation. One of these subjects alone could be the narrative for your new book: peace and unity, sports and fitness, your excellence, your world-renowned for your sporting acumen, for your runners in long distance. And of course, women empowerment, emphasizing Kenya's commitment to women's empowerment, showcasing its achievements in education, politics, business, and social justice. It's this attention to detail that is so important and makes these projects so successful. And it delivers the powerful message that we as a company have listened to you. And a good example is the current Kenya passport, of which I designed now over a decade ago. Yes, it probably needs an upgrade, and there's lots of things now I would do differently. But a decade ago, I listened to you, and you talked about having the big five, representing the lion, the leopard, the elephant, the water buffalo, and the rhinoceros. There were so many ways that I could have interpreted this. But I decided to showcase the Kenya shield. And you can see the line of animals on the bottom, and highlighted in the spot red is each creature as it goes through the double-page spread of the passport. So there's some striking recognition in the power of design on the book. But I wonder in your current passports whether you've seen the level of detail that's gone in it. Because in the background, I've included the fur or the hide of the animal. So you will have seen the leopard and the baobab tree. But what about the level of detail that builds into the background and secures that document from the counterfeiter? There are multiple screens hidden within this document, hiding within the background using the Corvina software. We just recently launched the Sierra Leone passport, and I want to just close now on having a quick look at this book. The end pages featured the chimpanzee. Why the chimpanzee? Well, because we did a design workshop, and the government talked to me about the importance of the chimpanzee, not only as their national animal, but also there's been a huge influx of tourism into Sierra Leone. And so I went back to my traditional ways and hand drew this young chimpanzee, cotton buds and trees in the background, highlighting the design. But then hidden in a more subtle way is the habitat of the creature. You can see the layer build here on the visa pages. The power of design is emphasizing the chimpanzee, the national animal. But do you notice the trees in the background? There are other animals hidden within the undergrowth. And on further observation, perhaps you will see that the chimpanzee is close to the water, for there is a reflection beneath it. Graphical symbols make up the background of the Sierra Leone design, as it does in the current Kenya book. But there has been more advancements lately, and so now we're doing these little technical G-screens made up of tiny icons that I personally draw up every single one. And then I will screen a photograph or a design, and it's made up of multiple security elements. Cotton buds, monkeys, little icons from crafts and textiles. This is the level of detail. These are the other visas, the spoonbill, the pygmy hippo, and the flamingo, all of which builds into the layer of the design. And of course their habitat, the forest, the woodland, the swamp, and the coast. It's also designed to dazzle, and we make sure that we want to also look at the narrative of the UV working. And so behind the scenes on this book, hidden in UV, is a further story of the animals themselves in their habitat and the flora and the fauna that they live and dwell in. It's designed to dazzle. Finally, the biodata page. We keep these less is more and simple because the personalization needs to be read well. More and more places and countries are now adopting polycarbonate, where you can integrate within several layers security features like Mirage, which is from HID, and Windows, and all sorts of various different portraits can be adapted, MLIs, user-definable screens. But I like to keep the design simple so you can read the personalization. In this case of Sierra Leone, a paper version, we've got textile background, but there is a colobus monkey hidden within the background there as well. So it still is included in the narrative. And the biodata page, UV. So thank you for listening. Thank you very much. In closing, let's keep communicating together and sowing those seeds. Let's keep collaborating together and discover that the power of design makes an enormous difference in your ID documents and your solutions. And I do hope you'll come and visit me and the team at HID stand and comment not only on this presentation, but on the future Kenya passport. I hope that I have the privilege of being involved with that, and I hope to glean as much information that I can from you all later on today, because it will be so fascinating to hear your comments on what you would like to see, Your Excellency, in your new Kenya passport. Thank you so much for your time.
One more round of applause for Colin Howell. Wonderful presentation there, and I can't wait to get home and look at my passport and see what's hidden in the detail.